We're going to turn now to the nation of India. Who is going to become the next leader of India? Well, vote counting has begun across India in the world's largest elections in history. Hundreds of millions of votes were cast after more than 6 weeks of polling, and billions of dollars were spent on what is ultimately a referendum on the last decade of leadership by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Now, his powerful right-wing party, BJP, is seeking a supermajority in the lower house of parliament, which will give it an unstoppable mandate to further enshrine its Hindu nationalist agenda. Well, this election result will reverberate far beyond India's borders, given India's strategic position in Asia and its booming economy. So it's particularly captured the attention of the U.S., China, and Russia. And joining us now from New Delhi is our I-24 News contributor, Ishan Garg. Ishan, what do we know about the turnout so far in the elections as these ballots continue to be counted?
Well, the turnout in this election has been absolutely massive. According to the official data, 642 million people, that's roughly twice the population of the United States of America. That's how many people voted in these elections. Total number of eligible voters were upwards of 950 million, so nearly 1 billion people were eligible to vote in these elections. And if you look at the scale, not only just of the number of voters, but also the time it's taken for these elections to finish, it's taken about 6 weeks, 7 phases. It's been a massive elections, and it's taken a lot of preparation from Indian officials as well. And now, as the counting has begun, all of that is coming to a culmination. We are expecting results to come out in a few hours from now, and we should possibly know which government is going to, which party is going to make form its government this time around.
Who is Modi up against here?
But Prime Minister Narendra Modi is up against a ragtag coalition of more than 24 parties. These are all parties, including the main federal level opposition, the Congress party, along with a number of regional parties which have come together in hopes of defeating Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Bharatiya Janata Party. But so far, the numbers that we can see, these are just trends coming from the counting numbers. They are showing that Prime Minister Modi is still in place, still looking poised to come back and form a government for the third time. But as far as the opposition is concerned, they have done surprisingly well. None of the pollsters were predicting such massive numbers for them, but it's looking as though they are going to inch closer to the majority mark. However, they may not hit that mark if the numbers that we're getting right now are to be believed.
Now, I understand that there's been a terrifying heat wave across India, and it's had a major impact on the voting and the polling, right?
Well, certainly there are tons of issues that Indian voters are caring about. One of them is, of course, the size of the economy, this growth that Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government has promised. India, according to the latest figures, has been growing at close to 7.8%. And on the minds of the voters, yes, that's an issue. But apart from that, people here have also been talking about a jobless growth. They've also been talking about the state of education and healthcare in the country as well.
Now, if Modi does not win, what comes next for India? And if he does, what will that mean down the line?
Well, if Prime Minister Modi does come back to power, this is going to mean a historic third term for him. He's going to become only the second Prime Minister in India's history to secure this feat. And this will mean, according to many financial and economic analysts, that this is going to see once more a very stable government, markets and the economic powers that be do not like to see volatility. And this is going to be great news for them. But as far as India's opposition parties are concerned, their position is concerned, they will see this performance as a sign that they have started to weaken Prime Minister Modi and his party's stronghold on Indian politics.
All right, so final question for you. I mean, what do you think is going to happen here based on the initial counts so far?
Well, based totally on the initial count, it looks as though Prime Minister Narendra Modi's party, along with its other allies, they are going to be very comfortably placed to cross the majority mark. India's lower house of parliament, for which the elections are being held, has 543 members. The majority mark is at 272. The BJP party, along with its allies, is set to cross that mark very comfortably. But political analysts do point out that this was a litmus test for Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his 10 years of governance of India. And it's an important factor here to consider that his own party is probably not going to cross the majority mark on its own. It's going to need those crutches in form of its allies. And that's something to be said about the BJP party's performance. Also the performance of the opposition parties, which have fought tooth and nail forming this ragtag coalition of different political parties, saying that they still have in them to stop Prime Minister Modi's political juggernaut.
Well, I think the world is watching closely to see how this is going to turn out. The world's largest election, just really fascinating that India is able to get this done in the first place. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be waiting to hear the final outcome.